David Prince is a lifelong public servant and community builder whose story stretches from the dirt roads of Holly Springs to decades of leadership across North Carolina. He has spent his life making systems more humane, honoring civil rights history, and walking with families in their hardest moments. From the small town of Holly Springs to the thriving community of Garner, David Prince have devoted more than a generation to public service and to uplifting everyday people. He came of age in the first integrated classes of his local schools and went on to build a career that touched thousands of families across the state, including decades of leadership in North Carolina's food stamp program and other vital human services that help put food on the table and dignity back into the process. David Prince, let's chop it up. How you doing, man?
Good morning, my friend. How are you doing this great day?
Good morning. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with us, and for that, we are grateful. So tell me a little bit about David Prince. Who is David Prince?
Okay, let's chop it up then.
Let's chop this
I am
up.
Originally from Wake County. My family has been here since 1888. We were landowners back in the day. Holly Springs is my hometown, so I'll always recognize it. I've lived all over Wake County, but I've been a Wake County resident all of my life. My wife and I started out in Cary. We moved to Raleigh, and our retirement home is in Garner.
Okay, thank God for that. So the 1800s, how did you find out your descendants were here that long?
Well, actually, there's a section of Holly Springs that used to be called Princetown. And that is where my great-great-grandfather bought land. And that is where the Prince Funeral Home stands now.
How about that? So any siblings, David?
Yes, I have. Actually, I'm still in bereavement. I've had a sister that passed in June of 25. But I have a brother and a sister. And my mother, who is 97 years old, is still with us.
Oh, that's amazing. The Bible say, you honor your father and your mother and your days shall be long. So you have a lot more years left on this planet.
God has been good.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. How was David as a child growing up? What was that experience like for you?
Well, I did grow up in Holly Springs. Holly Springs at that time was I'm going to say a poor black town, which was rich. I went to segregated schools there in Holly Springs, and then I graduated in 1971 from Apex High School, which was the integrated school. I was in segregated schools for 11 years of my schooling here in Wake County. And it was in 1971, in our senior year, that we were integrated, Apex Consolidated, integrated with Apex High School. And that was my first time having daily interactions with white people.
Wow, I'm pretty sure some of our listeners are sitting here flabbergasted. We're talking about segregated schools, and some of us don't know anything about that. But for some of our older listeners, they're probably nodding their head, remembering like you. What was that transition like growing up and then segregating, being part of segregation? What was that like for you as a child? Did you understand quite what was going on, or were you just rolling with the punches?
I guess we were rolling with the punches. Most towns in that era were segregated. You know, there's a black side and there's a white side. And so, naturally we were on the black side, but, we had churches, we had schools, we had stores, we had everything that we needed on our side of town. So segregation, we didn't know we were segregated until we knew that we could not do certain things, I think, at the time.
I got a question for you. This is a very interesting question here. So we know the resistance that other Americans had towards segregation, but in the African American community, what was the theme, or how did African Americans feel about segregation as a whole?
Great question. We were prepared for it. I don't think that we really went into it But then for equal opportunities, integration had to happen. There were certain restaurants, certain schools, certain things that we could not do. Even though we were capable of doing those things, we were not allowed to by law. I could not go to a white school when I was in my elementary years.
Mm-hmm. So 1971, you were the first integrated graduating class of Apex High School. How was your high school journey? How was that feeling or the sentiments in that school building and everybody facing these changes for the first time?
They prepared us for it. And actually, it was a good year. There were no issues. There were not many concerns. But I do recall we had 2 homecoming queens, a black one and a white one. We had everything that we had in that first year, we had 2 of. And I think that's what made things feel a little better. Yeah, we didn't realize that was during the time of the Vietnam War. Things were going on in America. I think Richard Nixon, a lot of things were going on just as they are now. But to me, I think now is a more dangerous time than it was then.
Okay, we're definitely going to hit on that a little later in this conversation. So David's in high school. I'm pretty sure you're thinking about what you wanted to do with your life. So I read that you went to Shaw University. So was college always in the back of your mind, military, or how did you wind up at Shaw University?
Let's start off with military. Did not want to do Vietnam. That was going on. So I decided I was going to go to college. And like many young folk at that time, I did not know what I was going to do. So if any young folk are listening, yes, I changed my major 3 times. I went in as a business administration major, and then I changed it to social work, and then I changed it to theater and directing. I met someone on campus who saw some talent in me, and then that's when I started moving into my cultural side of my brain.
Shaw University has gone through a lot of changes through the years. How was the university when you first got there?
Actually, great. I bleed Shaw blood. And so Shaw has been good for me, and Shaw put me on the map.
A lot of history at Shaw University, I believe. Didn't they have the first African American medical school? Correct.
School. Right.
That is
and
amazing.
Then we had the first dormitory for Black women, Esther Hall, which is still standing there on the campus.
Is that right? Wow. So what was the sentiments back then? You came from a segregated background and then you helped integrate, and now you're at an HBCU at Shaw University. It seems like there was a lot of Black excellence and Black pride going on in the David Prince family.
Yeah, we call it the Shaw universe, but it was a great time in my life. Great time in my life. I'm glad that my life has been on a trajectory that I designed, and I'm glad that it's happening like I wanted it to happen.
And so when you left Shaw University, what was the next steps for David?
The next step is working. I obtained a job. I was an eligibility specialist at the Wake County Department of Social Services, and I think I started that maybe back in the 70s. But my job then was to see food stamp recipients, AFDC, which stands for Aid to Families with Dependent Children, and Medicaid clients. So during that time, there were I'm not going to say we did not have computers, but everything was not computerized. So we had paper files of all of these people, and you had to take care of them. That was one of my skills that I learned early in life, was interviewing. I've learned to interview people, and I've learned to listen. That's hard for a lot of people, but I've learned to listen to individuals as they speak to me.
Common theme that runs through my shows, and I say it every show, that some people get to choose and then others are chosen. And I speak about certain careers being angel type careers. And you, my friend, were chosen for this type of work and being an ambassador for this type of work and being an advocate. So what drew you to social work? Was it just a job? Because you had an extenuating career. You had a long career in this field. What kept you there?
I think it was the job. And then when I felt when I just recognized that I was actually helping families, that's what kept me there. And I was in the social work career most of my life. Most of my life. When I retired as the manager of the food stamp, one of the managers of the food stamp program for the state of North Carolina. I was with the Wake County Department of Social Services about 15 years, and I spent about 15 years at the state social services office.
David, there's an attack in this country now on social programs and just being humane to people now, and you being in the program and so many people being helped by this program, and I'm sure you've heard it all, seen it all, but from a standpoint of all the misnomers surrounding social programs, food stamps, can you help us kind of understand the importance of that and why that's needed and why it serves all types of people and not just a stereotype of who it serves?
Please know that poverty is real. We have many children who are living in poverty. The food stamp program was created to help individuals who were living below poverty lines. And we have many children, many disabled adults, many people who depend on public assistance. During the shutdown just maybe a month ago, that was very concerning for me because I knew that a lot of families in North Carolina across the nation were being affected if they were not receiving their benefits. And I'm glad that worked out. We were very vocal about that during the time that was going on.
Are there any safeguards in the program? Because that's what's being put out, that there are no safeguards and people are abusing the system. What do you do as far as safeguards and protecting the system and making sure there's no abuse in the system?
Well, there are abuse and fraud in most systems in America. However, one of the things that I did was I managed employment and training with the food stamp program where able-bodied individuals were trained. We were trained on, there were classes on how to fill out an application, how to do a job interview. And people now, I see people now that I've worked with years ago who are gainfully employed, who have gone through the system, who have come out, who are living their lives and raising their children and our grandchildren now. But I've known people in Wake County all of my life because I've been here. So I see them on a regular basis. And I'm glad that I was there during that time to help them out.
The Bible says if you do these to the least of them, then you do it to me. If you have kids hungry, elderly hungry, people hungry, I think sometime in this atmosphere that we are in, we forget about those things, those words that Jesus spoke, and we look beyond that, and then we become so tribal in our nature.
Yes.
While you're there in your career, you're maturing and you're matriculating. I noticed that you became very active in the African American community. Seems like you're a man of pride and love your people and love your community. Can you talk a little bit about your journey there and how did you start getting into that community work?
Okay. My wife and I moved to Raleigh in 1979. We moved from Cary. And there out on the Carolinian newspaper, that was the black newspaper in Raleigh and Wake County during that time. And I saw an ad in there about, say, come join the Martin Luther King Committee. And I've always followed Dr. King. I mean, when I was reading, I was one of the readers. I was not an athlete. I was a reader. And I followed Dr. King through the News and Observer. We received the News and Observer on Sundays. And I followed his work. I knew about Alabama. I knew about Birmingham. I knew about all of these things just from reading the newspaper. I think I was early in high school when Dr. King was assassinated. I think that was 1968. And I think I was a 9th grader in high school. But I became a part of the Martin Luther King Committee. And I thought about it, when this question was going to come, I want to just share with you my credentials as being a ambassador in the African American civil rights era. In 1995, I was at the Million Man March. I was there at the March on Washington in 1983, and that was the 20th anniversary. I returned to Washington again for the anniversary, for the 50th anniversary in 2013, among thousands of folks. I'm talking about thousands of folk. And yes, it was 1 million men at the Million Man March. Mm-hmm. I've been to both of President Barack Obama's inaugurations. Now, there was 1 million folk there as well. We were standing there to watch this black man become the first black president of the United States of America. I've attended Coretta Scott King's funeral. Wow. That was in 2006. I think it was in Atlanta. And as we get into these things, I did operate the Civil Rights Heritage Tour for the MLK Committee. And we were in Washington, D.C., and I was allowed to use the men's room by Congressman John Lewis, who was a Sigma as well. And that was awesome. And I sat in the seat where the Speaker of the House sits. That was during one of our trips to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I started there, that Civil Rights Heritage Tour, Bruce Leitner was the founder of the Raleigh Wake MLK Celebration Committee. Mm-hmm. The first program was held maybe in 1984, and we grew it to one of the largest ones between Washington and Atlanta. Out of that, the Civil Rights Heritage Tour was born. In 2000, from 2000 to 2017, we carried by bus over 2,500 people each year. In the spring of the year, we followed the steps of Dr. King from his birthplace in Atlanta. We did a side trip to Tuskegee. If you ever been to Tuskegee University, that's a place to go to see George Washington Carver and all the things that he and Booker T. Washington did there at Tuskegee. Mm-hmm. We went to Selma, Montgomery, Birmingham, and Memphis. It was a 4-day, 5-night trip that we did for 17 years. Bruce Leitner and I did that for 17 years. I've walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma 17 times. I've been into the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham where the 4 little girls were killed 17 times. So I've learned the civil rights era. I've experienced it. And we are, as Black people now, since a lot of this wants to be erased, we have to be vigilant in America because we hold a place here, and we are going to remain here, and we want to remain here as equal citizens in America. And it looks like, now it just looks like that those things want to be turned back and forgotten about. But as Black people in America, we've come from a very long way, from slavery to wherever I'm sitting right now. We've done it, been there, fought for it, died for it, and here we are.
David, how do we continue to dream? You know, my generations and generations now, it seems like that dream is fading away, and they don't understand the importance of that, the importance of remembering, the importance of knowing. And then the leaders such as you are passing away and their voices aren't being heard anymore. What's the next steps for us? How do we continue the dream and continue the dream being told?
Well, one of the thoughts that I've had, and someone said it, but let's make the Martin Luther King holiday great again. I want people to, there are many communities that are doing Martin Luther King celebrations. I'm encouraging people to go out. You don't have to sit at home when things are going on out here in this world. We need to show up. We do need to show up. I've started I started the Martin Luther King Commission in Garner, the town where I live now. When I moved to Garner, the mayor of Garner asked me to start a Martin Luther King celebration, which I did. That was back in 2008. I moved to Garner in 2006. Right now, I'm a member, an active member with the Martin Luther King Celebration Committee in Holly Springs, my hometown. I'm encouraging everyone to wherever you are living, because there's a King celebration. Let's get out and listen to a inspiring speech. Let's march and let's let America know that we're still alive. We're not afraid. We're going to continue this fight. As long as I have breath in my body, we'll continue to fight.
I'm glad you brought up marching. I have wrote down on my paper here, taking notes. There's a lot of sentiment that marching doesn't matter anymore. Nobody does that anymore. It's not effective. How do you feel about marching in today's time? Is it effective?
To be marching, we are seen. You see, did you see the local news just last night when people are standing up for the individual who was killed in Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Thousands of people are coming out. And then America sees that. America saw the police officer kill the young lady. America saw the police officer kill George Floyd. America saw this. And we can just not let these things just happen. And because they're not happening by happenstance. There's a lot of hate going on in this world as well. And Dr. King preached love and peace and unity.
Visibility is important. I love how you frame that. That is the perfect answer to that, because I was pondering on what the right answer would be to that. But you nailed it when you said when you marching and out there, you're still being seen. I think that was one of the biggest things that helped drive the civil rights movement, was the visual part of it, the seeing of all these things that happen.
Everyone has social media. Everyone, there are TikToks, there are all kinds of things that one can do to make America know that we are here, we are surviving, we are thriving. I don't want America to think that we're poor anymore, because we've obtained, but no, yes, there's still poverty here. We're working on that. We're doing all we can to lift people up. However, one must take it upon themselves, out of their own heart and their own mind, that I must do something to make this world a better place.
I love that. The thought just crossed my mind that, do we have a central leader of the community anymore? But when you said that individual focus is important, because it takes and starts with that individual to want to make change, to want to be change. You can't look for one person to galvanize us. It's that spark that's coming from you, wouldn't you say?
I would say so as well. I just picked up a book recently, and the name of it is We Are the Leaders. I am the leaders that we are searching for. We are the leaders that someone is searching for. And there are many leaders out here now. I believe just if it's just on social media, our Washington Congressman, Jasmine Crockett, Hakeem Jeffries, all of those are doing all that they can do to fight the battle that has been going on since we've been in America. Mm-hmm. But they are there, and they are being seen, and they are letting their thoughts and feelings be known to the powers that think they may be.
You have to be selfless in this work. And I think selfishness is a tool of the enemy to have you focus solely on yourself and not looking to help others. And I also feel that we have been conditioned, and we're chasing this dream of wealth and this dream of admiration that has contorted our view of what actually is going on. Because I talk to a lot of young people, and they don't see the struggle. They don't even recognize the struggle. And so how can we make that connection or reach our younger people to let them know that we still need them in this fight, because nothing has changed. It just cloaked how it looks.
Well, in my fraternity and in about any other organizations that I've attached myself to, there are younger folk who are there working hard, who want to see the change, who want to give to America. The Black female is the most educated person, I think, on this earth, and they're the ones who are leading the challenge sometimes. Young Black men, we do need your help. I speak about it all the time. We need you out here. We need strong Black men to flex their muscle, to speak their voice, and they are heard. That's one of the things I will suggest to people. Join an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Join an organization. Your local church, your local community group, the end. There are many organizations where you can be active and be a part of a bigger picture to make this world, I'm going to say, an equal place.
That's
because
right.
fight is going to continue.
I like what you said about the MLK tours or the MLK Civil Rights Heritage Tours. Does that still happen? Are you guys still doing that?
Well, actually, in 2017, gas, hotel fees, a lot of things went on. And then just a couple of years later, then there was COVID. And so we have not started that again because it was just me and Bruce Leitner. And now it looks like it's going to be me because Bruce is a little under the weather now. So I do want to do at least one more trip before I become older.
Well, for anybody out here listening that may want to help sponsor something like this, let's reach out to me. I can organize with Mr. Prince here, and we can garner donations and support, and let's see what we can do. So when we do these tours, what does that look like? What is a tour for people listening and wondering, okay, what does that mean?
People come back a little more powerful. After you follow the steps of Dr. King and all that he went through, we go from Dr. King's birthplace to the house where he was born, to the Ebenezer Baptist Church where his father was the pastor and grandfather the pastor, and the new church across the street, the new Ebenezer, where the congressman is the pastor. Atlanta is a beautiful city and filled with Black history. Next stop would be Tuskegee, where George Washington Carver, he did all the things with the peanut and all. Mm-hmm. Just to see that rich history, he and Booker T. Washington. To go on into Selma, to walk across that Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yeah.
To see what John Lewis, they beat him half to death on that bridge.
Yeah.
To go into Birmingham, which was the most segregated city in the South. The 16th Street Baptist Church still stands. It was bombed in September, I think 63, and those 4 little girls were killed. It's something to think about of what America has gone through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then we go on to Memphis and see the hotel, the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was killed, and you'll see the actual room where he was staying in. It's America's you need to go. Mm-hmm. I'll make it a point that in 2026 or 27, we can go.
We can go. You guys heard it here first. We're going to reignite this MLK Civil Rights Heritage Tour with Mr. David G. Prince. You mentioned you were on the MLK Commission. What type of work does the commission do?
The North Carolina Martin Luther King Commission was another, during the thing when North Carolina was trying to make things right, one of the major roles that commission was doing was helping communities across our state start Martin Luther King celebrations. Mm. We did training. We went visiting smaller communities who did not have, Wake County is a rich county. We have resources here. But a lot of smaller places in eastern North Carolina, in the mountain areas of North Carolina, there are not many resources. So that was our goal, is to open up avenues for groups who wanted to start teen committees. They would send in, proposals, and we would fund them. And that was one of the major parts of that. And the Martin Luther King Commission also was very instrumental in getting people hired into state government. Well, yeah, sort of, kind of, because just know that in the 70s, Black Americans were moving into state government jobs, because at one point there was only whites there. So I'm grateful to even have had a career with state government as well as Wake County government.
That is a blessing. Speaking of careers, this is a very good transition for us. After 3 decades in public service, you started a new career,
Yeah.
a career that was based on grieving and healing. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how did you find yourself in your new career?
Well, when I was, I was getting close to my 28th, 29th year in state government, and I decided I've done all that I could do here, and let me look another place where I can go and thrive. My father was in the funeral business with his cousin there in Holly Springs. And so and then they asked me to say, hey, why don't you go get your license and come help me out? And so that's when I started my funeral service career. I went back to school at age 50. I went to school at age 50. I went to Fayetteville Tech. That's one of the community colleges here in North Carolina, and that offers the funeral service program. I was there for about 2.5 years because I was still working, and young people, you can do 2 or 3 things. But I was still working full time. I went to school online as well as drove to Fayetteville for classes. I graduated from there. And to go into the funeral business, you need to be trained. And I was an apprenticeship. I did my apprenticeship at Lightner Funeral Home, which is a historic funeral home in Raleigh. And it was an honor to be there. That funeral home was started by Clarence Lightner's father, and Clarence Lightner was the first Black mayor in Raleigh.
Wow.
First and only Black mayor so far.
Wow.
And his son, Bruce Lightner, was who started the Martin Luther King Committee, I trained in the funeral business under him.
How about that?
I currently work at Lee Funeral Home on Pool Road in Raleigh. I'm a senior funeral director there. I've been there about almost 20 years. And I also manage in the funeral director at Prince Funeral Home in Holly Springs. So I still lead a busy life. So the other part of that is that, you got to be healthy to do all the things that I try to do. And I try to maintain my health, because that's an important thing as a Black man as well.
Absolutely. What does it mean to you, David, to help families, African-American families, through grief, especially in families or communities that they have a tradition in how they go home? How do you help people with that? I'm pretty sure you carry a lot of weight, almost like a counselor. You're there to listen. You're there to comfort. How does David manage all that and still manage your sanity?
I think I said earlier that during my time at Wake County Social Services and even with the state, I interviewed individuals to see if they were eligible for assistance. And that's where my interview skills started. And that's where my listening skills started. And then when you have a family sitting before you who's had a loved one to pass, and they don't know exactly what to do, it's my job to listen, learn, figure it out with the family's help, and to get them through the process. As we live, let's prepare to die, because that's one thing that we're going to do. And we prepare for everything else. But sometimes people are surprised when an individual passes. Yes, babies, young people, unexpected deaths, accidents, suicides. These are surprises to people and to me. But I've learned to just listen to a person's heart as they speak, because, and since I'm still in the grieving period, and I know that individuals sometimes don't know which way to go or what to do or where even to turn.
Yeah.
Let me go back to something else that I always say to people. Trust in God, He'll bring you through. That's one thing I say to families. We're going to make it through this. Trust in God.
I did a speech one time, and in my speech I told people, I said, you were born to live, but you live to die. And that sticks with me because when I was diagnosed with cancer, and they had a life expectancy tied to it, and I tell this, and I have to keep saying it because no man can tell you how long you're going to be here. Statistics might say 1 to 3, but this is starting my 5th year. And one of the hardest things for me was to, at UNC, they give you a counselor and they give you a social worker and all these things. So you'll be equipped with what may happen during your journey if you don't come out of your journey. And I had to plan my end of life experience. And that was difficult because you talked about grieving. You grieve the loss, but from people that have these modalities that's trying to take their life, it's almost like you're grieving while you're living, because you're grieving the life of, is this my last breath that I'm going to take? Right. So you really got to trust God and you have to fight the urge to grieve for your life while you're still living, because you're going to die. They can't tell you when. So if you can eliminate that out of your mind, you can kind of cope with the grief. So when you talked about grieving for those that have passed, there's also grief for those that are still living, that have facing these modalities that want to kill them.
I'm amazed by you just because of what I think you have been through. I'm amazed by your intellect and how you are handling all of this with grace and honor. You are continuing to be yourself. You did not lay down.
That's
You did
right.
not lay down and die. We're going to fight this thing. And you're doing a great job of telling the public that, you can live through this. You can handle this. Nobody knows. No man knows the hour.
That's
But
right.
you are handling it very well. And I'm proud of you, proud to know you, and to hear your story was sort of kind of exhilarating for me, because if you're doing things, I can do anything. If you can do some things, I can do some things too.
That's right. Love that approach. Love that approach. So you're in the funeral home business. Have you ever thought of starting your own funeral home?
Oh, well, that may be in my future. That may be in my future. We'll just wait to see how life turns out. I do have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this. So, a lot of people don't like to talk about death, but it's inevitable. And our listeners are probably cringing right now because we're talking about death, but you see it face front and center. And we don't have to talk about that, but we can talk about the preparation, because I'm sure you probably see families that are not prepared financially or any other ways. What's some advice that you can give to all listeners, people that are listening, that can help them when these moments come if they have certain things in place?
I am also a licensed pre-need counselor, pre-arrangement counselor. Come and see me and I can tell you everything you need to do before anything happens. I pride myself in, to seeing families, because I want to get them to be prepared for this. A lot of people are living with cancer, living with diseases, and inevitably everybody's going to pass. But sometimes people want to get their business in order. I'm going to say something else as well. Young people buy some life insurance. It's cheaper when you're younger. It's cheaper, and you can buy life insurance. You got car insurance, you got all these, buy some life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Make certain that your elderly parents, make certain everything is okay with them. Look at their policies. Make certain the beneficiaries are correct. Do some diligent work before you need to have to do it. Talk to your parents about what they want to do and how they're going to do it. Make certain everything happens. I do workshops. I did one not too long ago for my fraternity because, things happen and the family was not ready. And, that's one thing I preach. I don't mind doing it. Call me. I'll come and see you. I do churches. COVID stopped a lot of our getting out into the public arena. But we used to go to churches. We go to senior citizens facilities. We have to try to help people because it's inevitable. We're going to
Maybe we
pass
can
on.
do a webinar and have you do a hour long or however long webinar, and we invite people openly, and you can kind of teach and go over some things. Be interested in that?
Yeah, I'm interested in that. And then, somewhere we're tentatively planning something in the spring where we can get a group of people together and we can do some things and listen to some professionals talk about their work into the law, lots of things. So just stay on the lookout for us. Mr. Williams is a very intellectual young man, and he's trying to do things, and I'm trying to help him.
Hey, this
And
is my
he's trying to
mentor.
help me.
This is my mentor, David G. Prince. Look, you have a lot of talents that people know and probably don't know about, but one of them is your ability to storytell. I listened to a series of poems that you recited on Black Voices Now, and it was amazing. So how did you get into your storytelling, your theatrical type work? Tell us a little bit about that and expound on that for us.
When I was at Shaw University, let me go back a little. When I was in high school, I was in my high school senior class play. And that sort of kind of started it. When I got to Shaw and I was on campus one day and met Dr. H.C. Capel, who was the theater director there with the Shaw Players and all of that, he started talking with me, and that's when I started going out doing my one-man shows at Langston Hughes. I used to be a Langston Hughes expert, so I guess I still am. But James Weldon Johnson, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, I do all of their work. And right now, I am working on a piece. I'm working on a monologue about Frederick Douglass. And I want to do that February, maybe of next month. I'm going to do that. And that's a powerful piece. I'm working on it right now. So maybe you'll see me somewhere in February doing Frederick Douglass.
Look, just give us a little bit. What's your favorite line? It doesn't have to be from one in particular, but what is your favorite line or series of lines from all the things you've done?
Well, child, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair, but I'm still climbing, I'm reaching ladders, I'm turning corners, and I'm going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So don't you get tired. Don't sit down on the steps because life gets kind of hard, because I'm still going. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Langston Hughes.
Langston Hughes. What about Langston Hughes that you love the most?
That poem touched me when I first heard it years ago. And I learned it and I recite it on a constant basis to anybody who will listen. But one of the things I want to do with that is teach my granddaughter that. And I told her I want her to learn a poem. She does not know what it is, but she's 7 years old, but I want her to start doing it.
Is there an aspect of civil rights history that you are determined to not let people forget?
I am determined to not let people forget the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King and all the things that he had done for Black America and for America. For the last 40 years, Martin Luther King holiday that's what I thrive. That's when I really live. And I'm going through that. I'm listening to speakers. I'm getting inspiration from speakers from all over the country. I've had 3 or 4 MLK celebrations that I will attend at the end of this week. And so I'm looking forward to that. I come away inspired. I come away strengthened. I come away being proud to be a Black man in America. So that's why I do. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone, of the fraternities, the community, come out to the Martin Luther King celebrations here in Raleigh. There's one in Garner. There's Holly Springs. There's Fuquay Arena. Every community here has a King holiday. And I wish young folk, especially young Black males, would go out. Especially, I want you to get up, go out to an event, and come back a better person.
You mentioned fraternity, on social media and now in our churches. It seems like there is a lot of things to say about fraternal organizations and things of the such. I understand you're a member of Phi Beta Sigma. And can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what drew you to them, and the significance and importance of fraternities and how they affected the African American community since inception?
My manager in state government was a Sigma, and he's asked me for several years to be a Sigma. I didn't do it in college. I didn't do it, and I was thinking that I was okay. But then joining a brotherhood whose commitment is to brotherhood, service, and scholarship, to be a group of people who are positive men who we sit around the table and we plan and we make things happen and we help out in the community, and these people are my brothers, and then they're all over the world. And so when we go places, I wear my Sigma stuff and people will stop and say, yeah, I'm your brother. And so that is good I believe in fraternities, sororities. I think they are good, powerful places for people to be. There are spaces there that we are doing great in, and I don't have a problem with fraternities, sororities, Masons, any type of group. I think that we all should belong to some type of group that can speak with you, for you, and protect you, and be around you, and you can be around them.
Mm-hmm. David, all these years you have seen so much and you have contributed and poured out so much to so many. What anchors your faith? How do you stay grounded?
God is. I think that's all I need to say. Joshua 1:9 is my scripture that I go to every morning. I have to be strong. I have to be of good courage. I cannot be dismayed because he's with me wherever I go. And so God is. And I have to trust in that as I move around every day. I'm all over Wake County most days. And so I move around. I'm doing the best that I can to help my mother, to help the community, to see families. I'm doing the best that I can, and know that I cannot do it forever. So that's why I want to raise up. I have young men who are working under me, working with me. So, because I won't be doing this forever, but I do want to leave a legacy of strength and kindness and mentorship. I do want to leave that.
Acknowledge him in all thy ways, and he shall do what? Direct thy paths. Yeah. And so, who pours back into you?
Okay, that's a good question. I have several people who because every day is not a good day.
That's right.
But all I have to do is pick up a phone and call a friend or go visit a friend, because a minute with a wise man is better than a drink of alcohol.
That's
a
right.
minute with a wise man to help you, and some people are farther along than I am. So that means I have to, to see what they're going through and to try to help them as they help me. But yes, I have several men of wisdom who have surrounded me and helped me throughout my careers.
Mm-hmm. When people hear the name David Prince many, many, many years from now, what do you hope they remember about you?
Look where he brought me from. If you knew my story, grew up on a dirt street.
Mm-hmm.
Life has been good. It's been hard, but I've accomplished, hung in there. We've been married 50 years. I think that's an honor.
50
And so
years.
I have raised my sons, and they have wives, and we have grandchildren. So I'm very grateful for that. One of the things that I want to do is for my great grandchildren who have not even been born, leaving them a rich history of where we have come as a family. It has not always been peaches and cream, but we have made it through. And I'm very grateful to God for keeping me, protecting me, leading me, guiding me. We are members of a church here in Garner, and every town that I've lived in, I've been active in a church there. And so I think that's another thing that young people need to go into their local church, go into mama and daddy's church and help them out, because I think there's been a falling away from
Yes.
churches. But now, in the system that we're living in America now, you're going to need something to help you get through.
Let's backtrack. You just said something very important. You said there has been a falling away from church, a falling away. We are the church, right? The building is the building. That's where we gather, and we associate church with the building, but we are the church. And this is when you say there's a falling away from church, it means there's a falling away from God. And there's so many reasons and why, but I would love to hear your take on why is that.
I hate to say it, but I think social media, we look at things, constantly, and then we don't need church. We need to compete with whoever I saw on my phone, or we need to compete with whoever I saw on the TV and all, instead of the only person I compete with actually is myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be a better person today than I was yesterday, because I probably made mistakes yesterday. So I have to be very careful in what I do and what I say today. But I live each day intentionally. I serve a lot of people. I'm around a lot of people sometimes. So I know I have to stay on task at all times, because I have people like Tony Williams around who's going to reach out to me. If we'll keep each other straight.
That's right.
Sharpens iron.
Yes, I love that. Iron sharpens. I believe I tell people all the time, there are people that pop up in your timeline for a reason, right? Some pop up in your timeline and they're here for a short season and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have those that pop up in your timeline for such a time as this, right? And they're there for the duration of the rest of that timeline. And I think you're one of those men. I met you, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5, through you came to one of our cycling events, and you were out there. We were actually doing training. We were doing those loops and laps, and you came out there and probably was like, "What in the world is this?" And but you stood and you stayed and you went through your laps, and that was but who would have known 5 years ago now for such a time as this that we have become good friends, and not just that's Tony, the cycling president.
I will let the public know that yes, I went out there to call it the circle. What you call it, the crit?
You call it the angel crit.
Hey, they riding 25 miles an hour. And so I'm there saying, oh my God. But then Tony Williams was patient with me. So I haven't got up to 25 miles an hour yet, but I'm getting there. But yeah, biking is one of my things. I love to cycle. I love to be in the greenway on my bicycle. So thank you for introducing me to 25 miles an hour.
You got it, man. This man is turning back the clock and he's doing yoga and chin-ups and push-ups. And it just goes to show that, initially the body was designed to live forever. You are what you say you are. What you
Right.
manifest is what you are. And if you tell your
Right.
body it should be in decline, it will be in decline. That's one of the things when fighting cancer, I talk to my body and I tell it what it is and what it's not going to do.
Right.
And I
Right.
tell it what I'm going to do, and it has to do what I say I'm going to do.
That is
And
correct.
so if we keep that mentality, there's no gray area. You either are or you aren't.
Right.
And you choose to be very active in your health. And for those that's your age that don't, you can clearly see the difference in the mentality.
Right.
And so we can control these things, Any last words for our listeners, David, that you want to impart, encourage, or say?
Well, I will say this is the one I've been using a long time. Mm-hmm. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Amen to that. Look, how can we find you? How can our listeners find David Prince? What's your handles on social media, if you have any?
Actually, I'm only on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. That's about the only social media I stay up with. So, but that's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. But I am at, you can find me at any funeral home in Raleigh, North Carolina. Well, you can find me at Lee Funeral Home in Raleigh. You can find me at Prince Funeral Home in Holly Springs, or just reach out to me. I'm around.
From welfare offices to homegoing services, from MLK committees to the theater stage, David Prince shows us what it looks like when a full life is fully given to God, the Black community, and others. David Prince, man, thank you for your time.